thank you for joining the Meet Italy community today and sharing your views with us.
Davide, good morning.
And,
great to see you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to It's a Brave Zoom World, a series of interviews with industry and opinion leaders in the time of lockdown. So, Miles, you are a partner at a great law firm, and you specialize in entertainment and fashion industries. Tell us a little bit about how COVID-19 is disrupting these traditional models in those two industries.
Wow, how much time do we have? I mean, I think, there isn't a thing I can think of that's been more disruptive to the world economy, not least of which is entertainment. And obviously because things that I specialize in, like music, filmed content, television, fashion, those are human endeavors where people typically gather together, and it's creative endeavors where you produce the content together. And obviously all of that has come to a screeching halt. And so it's depressing to the extent that really the entertainment business, you can't put people in seats in the movie theaters, you can't put people in seats for concerts. Fashion shows aren't happening because obviously people congregate. So it is the most disruptive thing I've seen in my life, and certainly in a generation or more, to the entertainment business and the music business and the fashion industry. I think though that out of the other end of this, there's going to be some changes. I mean, the thing that's most constant in the universe, right, is change. So I think those firms that are able to really roll with and adapt to what COVID has wrought, I think are going to come out the other end a lot more successfully, and we can get into that a little more. But just taking a couple of the industries that I specialize in, all the fashion weeks, obviously in Europe and in the United States, have been canceled in terms of brick and mortar live events. Sports is another thing I specialize in. Of course, in the United States, there's no sports being played, which is, I think, something upwards around a $10 billion loss so far. If you can believe, Americans without sports, I think that's adding to people's anxiety and stress, because that's such a big part of our, of our common culture. Live music, which is how the entertainment business, the music business has made money for a long time, stopped. So those are about as, film content, no production. So they're not making TV, they're not shooting films, and there's not really an easy way to go about getting that done in the short term.
Location like this, as tremendous as they are, they usually create winners and losers, right? I mean, there's that big divide, and the ones that can adapt will be the winners. What trends, what winning trends, what developing trends are you seeing, and what, if not, specific companies, but at least what segments of your industry you think are adapting better to the changes here?
I think it's illustrative to talk about a couple areas, one of which is streaming, right? Obviously, streaming has been real disruptive already in the film content space. Certainly the movie studios, they've had a big target on their back because of Netflix and Amazon and the ability to get high quality film content into your living room through streaming. That's obviously, before COVID, was a problem, hurting box office, et cetera. Netflix was moving towards full spectrum dominance pretty much, because they'd moved actually also into showing their movies in the movie theater and getting Oscar nominations for their films. Right. So that trend has been accelerated, and I don't see Netflix. Netflix is now king, in my view. I think their market dominance will be cemented by COVID and this disruption and this quarantine where people have to watch. I mean, I think they are now, in terms of probably every facet in the film content space, they're the leaders, and I think they will be for a long time to come. I don't see how the studios are going to be able to catch up. Disney Plus and all these other things. I think Netflix is heads and tails kind of ahead in terms of the amount of content, in terms of sort of their position in the marketplace going forward. So I think they'll definitely be a winner. I think firms and companies that are able to adapt, and I'll give you an example from the fashion industry with respect to streaming. Corinne Reutfeld, who's a big fashion insider, did a virtual runway last month, where basically she did a huge fashion show. It was a benefit for Amphar, So it wasn't a for-profit thing, but it was so well done and so it was watched, you know, lots of eyeballs tuned into it, that is very likely to be the future. And as you probably heard, Milan, Paris, and New York, I think New York have all moved virtual. So they're all going to do their spring, summer and resort collections. You know, designers are going to show them online, doing online fashion shows. And so I think that's going to be an interesting way in the fashion industry into the future. Another really interesting thing that's gone on in this COVID environment is the streaming of live music, right? Where you had these benefits, you know, Lady Gaga put on the One World event where basically from her house, she had all these other artists perform. That I think is going to be a lot more commonplace. It's a lot more, obviously right now it's safe. It won't replace, I think, ultimately, you know, going to a venue and watching live music. I think the live music industry is safe in that sense once there's safety parameters that are put in place to allow it to happen. But I think the industry is seeing that people will come to and will pay to watch live music from their living rooms, and so I think that's going to accelerate a trend that's going to, you know, create a different set of revenue streams for the traditional live music folks or whoever is going to be able to, you know, promoters that are going to be able to create those kinds of concerts. And then the other thing I think is really interesting that this situation has accelerated is e-gaming. Obviously, as like I was saying, in the United States, obviously there's no sports right now. They're trying to figure out, I mean, in Germany, I think Bundesliga starts this weekend. So they're going to try and see,
right.
You know, and hopefully Germany can be a model for how maybe we can do it here in the United States, but without fans, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how they pull that off, both from a player safety and sort of, you know, the sort of the efficacy of how the games go without fans. It's going to be interesting. And, you know, what things can they put in place to have fans come? That's going to be interesting. But the industry that's not having any problem at all is, of course, e-gaming, where players, you know, the number of viewers are up. They're having, you know, the prize money is getting bigger and bigger, and this pandemic has just accelerated that. And I think, you know, there's billions of dollars at play. Obviously, it's never been an issue, or not as big an issue, to have actual live fans in the seats, although that's happening more and more. I think the pandemic now has had people realize that, you know, e-gaming is really something, you know, to look at in terms of where everything's going in the future. So those are a couple sort of trends. There's many others, but those are a few.
Right. I mean, you touched upon sports, and obviously I feel the pain because also for me personally, without sports, it's not so much fun, certainly without soccer. But in terms of the economics, how long can the sports industry really sort of go through this process without, you know, really encountering some very serious problems? The reason why I'm asking this because in Europe, where the economics of sports are somewhat different than here, for example, especially I'm thinking of Italian soccer. The reality of the matter is a lot of clubs will probably be, you know, going under. I mean, if this cannot be resolved because they depend so much on the money from broadcasting.
Yeah, I think we have similar issues, maybe not with the major leagues in terms of the Major League Baseball, the NBA and NFL. Certainly though, maybe with MLS and MLS teams, sort of the less well-funded leagues, I think could have issues. I do think, though, that what you're going to see, and it's going to be very interesting, is they're going to work out a protocol where players can play safely, I hope, looking at Germany as a model as they're, you know, doing major testing and, you know, all the medical things you have to do so that you can actually play the sport, you know, in a safe way.
Right.
And then I think you alluded to it. Then it's all about broadcast rights. I mean, right now, people are watching highlights from Olympic curling and baseball from Korea and any sports that they can get their eyeballs on, right? There's you know, they're watching old Michael Jordan, you know, video, you know, stuff because of this Last Dance documentary. So people are desperate. I truly think that there will be a novelty for a while to watching sports with no fans in the stands, but watching it, you know, watching it live broadcast. So I think those broadcast deals won't be as rich. And obviously all the ancillary revenues that come from having people in stands, those are going to be, you know, that'll be real detrimental But I think for the United States, the leagues are so well capitalized, the owners are so wealthy, that my sense is that they can weather it for a while. I think they could certainly weather it for a season. I don't know if they can weather it for much more.
Right.
And it would be interesting to see the major leagues in the United States going hand in hand, asking for bailouts from the federal government, given how wealthy they've been for so long. I don't see that happening. But I think, look, I mean, everyone is optimistic that they're going to figure out a way to ameliorate the actual virus itself. The key, I think, and that's why I'm going to be watching so closely how they do it in Germany, is, obviously Germany's been a leader in the medical part of it in terms of testing and keeping their people safe. And so it makes sense that they're the ones that can start sooner. I think as we start doing more of that here in the United States over a period of time, I think, I'm optimistic that there will be football in the fall, for example, and, obviously probably without fans in the stands, and so some of that revenue will come in through broadcasting, through merch. I think people will be excited. I think there'll be people will rally towards the sports that they love to watch it, even though it'll be anomalous and strange without fans and you can't go see it live. I think people are dying to watch sports. So I think as soon as Germany gets it together, and they show that it can be done, I think the other leagues, I know that my firm is working hard to advise leagues in Europe on how to reopen and do it safely. So I know it's a high priority for everybody.
Right. Everybody's working really hard to figure out the right protocol. Of course, it's that sort of a real, a fine dance between, the safety and really what it's possible and achievable, and there's no perfection. It's going to be a compromise, but I agree that something will be eventually worked out. But let me ask you one more question before I let you go. And I know you do great work in charity. That's actually how we originally met many years ago. Can you tell me what kind of initiative are you currently involved right now?
Davide, as you know, foster care is really important to me. It's close to my heart. And the COVID crisis has really exacerbated the traditional problems that foster kids face, particularly around the issues of distance learning, right? So one of the main ways that foster kids overcome, the obstacles that they face is through education. And then to have education sort of, in effect, shut down, or presented to them in a way where they have to have technology in order to access it again, that's presented a hardship for a lot of foster kids that don't have an internet connection and or a tablet or a computer. So I've worked closely in the last months with the John Burton Advocates for Youth, which is a charity I'm on the board of, to raise money to get computers and tablets in the hands of foster kids so that they don't suffer in their main path out of a lot of the stuff that they're doing. So that's been really exciting. We raised, lots of money to help get kids connected. So that's been something that I've been super focused on.
Excellent. If there is a time to come together and really do some good work, this is the time. So
absolutely. I mean, we can talk about entertainment and we can talk about how important it is for civic life and just the sort of cultural bonds and all of that. But the reality is there are people in lines to get food. Right. There's people who are homeless, et cetera. So it, just like anything else, I think this highlights and accelerates, this crisis has highlighted and accelerated issues, not just in the entertainment and sports and music space, but in our society writ large. So definitely we got to come together and help each other and stay positive.
Very well. I like that. I want to close on stay positive because this is what it's all about, right? We want to do this round of interviews with opinion leaders like you to really sort of go beyond the walls and really look at the futures in a positive light and see how we can make something good out of this crisis and really turn things around and create a better society and a better economy for everyone. Miles, I want to thank you. This is always a pleasure to be with you. I hope that I can see you personally very soon. And in the meantime, just thank you very much for being with us.
Davide, my pleasure. Thanks so much. Great to see you. You're looking good as always. Take care.